Dear God, let's share this to everybody who needs to be shared with, because sharing is caring. Oh boy.
I just want to thank Mike Tomlin for one of the worst coaching decisions ever.
Share this too.
Ever.
Did you happen to see, by the way, the Tennessee game? Like what I call the super spreader event? Did you see how many fucking people they had packed into that stadium?
I thought it was only 15,000.
It looked like a huge, and they
said
not
it was 15.
They're not, but they were all over each other. Like at the other stadiums, there's barely anybody, and they're miles apart. And in Tennessee, where the virus,
I thought they went out of their way to say, look, if you have a group of people who are together, if it's like a family, that's okay. I mean, wasn't that? Did it look like there were 30 people right on top of each other?
It looked like they were all over each other. It was like, but I didn't see that at any other game. Like everybody was like, there was nobody around, and there was so much space between them. But in Tennessee, where things are rocking, by the way,
yeah,
just like they are in North
Carolina.
How to handle
it there. Yeah.
They know how to hang on to it. Let's do this again. Hang on. I only saw a little bit of some Pelosi stuff on 60 Minutes. I didn't really. I was going to go
to bed.
She's the worst, right?
You having issues?
No, I'm good. You good?
Oh,
okay.
Look here.
Everything's working for me. All right. I just don't want the NBA to ever give up. Even though all these teams are having trouble like fielding and complete teams, but I don't want them to ever give up on the season. Don't throw in the towel, guys. Do you see it?
I'm seconds away from
launching into an award-winning podcast.
Yeah, we're good. Okay, so
yeah.
I guess we can start.
We can.
It is the Brad and Britt cast, our first one for this week. We're glad you are with us. Thank you very, 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 very much. All right. We were last together on Friday. Oh, so we didn't have the famous Friday hole that we have to fill. So
we got there.
We're mostly up to speed here. I guess the question everybody's asking is, should Bill Belichick accept a Medal of Freedom from
He should. I hope we go ahead and get that done before it's all over. It's a frightening time in America. I was explaining to somebody, the mythology of the end of the Jimmy Carter days with the high interest rates and inflation and the hostages being taken and the gas lines and all that shit. What I wouldn't give for 18 or 20% interest on buying a house for a mortgage. Holy shit! These are extremely dark days, are they not?
Well, I think that since everything is essentially on rerun, it just has a different title with every news story and every take on every outrage in the Trump era. But the umbrella over all of them is it hasn't mattered what it was, how bad it was, how norm breaking it was, how illegal it was, how unprecedented it was. The take by most Republicans, we get a few that peel off each time. We've had a few peel off over the weekend, but they don't speak for Republicans as a whole who are in elected office. They're all still scared shitless for the most part, except for ones who either just got reelected. We'll put Ben Sass in that group because he was a complete turd up until he won his primary and had guaranteed himself reelection a few months ago. So now he is the conscience of America, right? He is the great, right?
Well, this was the speech he gave the other day was go mow your neighbor's lawn or some shit like that. That's what I saw. It was like go check on the widow down the street. That's what we need to do now.
Right.
I mean, give me a break.
Right. So we have the repeated cycle of no matter what happens, within a day or two, the drumbeat starts.
Yeah.
And the story is not what happened, it's how you Mr. Liberal, how MSNBC is outraged.
Yeah.
And this time, it isn't even that. It's because clearly no one, even Republicans, no one is supporting the violent overthrow of the American government. There's a big gap between that and placing blame where it belongs, right at the top on Donald Trump. And then, we can get into, if you want to, what feels like one of the tenets of a would-be authoritarian, which is corrupting law enforcement. Because it looks like there's a lot of corruption in law enforcement in this country, and the way they responded in Washington, the way the FBI is responding, the non-statements that they're making, because they're not making any. Everybody's pretty quiet about this, and we don't have to play if it was Muslims or black. There's no discussion of that. We know
it's understood. And corruption in law enforcement is always like one of the tenets of the so-called banana republics, right? It's always like a thing. Right. It's always like, and we were always able to throw that at people for years, but apparently now we can't really throw that at people so much.
As they like to say on NBC Thursday nights at 9, this is us. I don't know what time the show is on, but that sounded right.
Now, one thing has happened since we last met, and that is that Twitter has taken away his privileges. He no longer has an account. It's done, done. And I have to tell you, over the past, he seems different without the ability to do that. There's a huge difference.
No. He still sucks. He's still a liar. He still shouldn't be president. He still should have never been elected president.
That's correct.
But as part of what I was just saying before, let me add this on. Just give me a big gallon jug of Elmer's glue to put this on top of it. Another major theme that's developed over the last few days, if you watch the You Know What Network and elsewhere, it isn't what happened last Wednesday in Washington, D.C. at the Capitol.
Yeah.
It's the fact that Donald Trump is being silenced by Twitter. That's the big issue. That's the only thing that matters in America, right? That's the only thing that's important right now. And clearly, we're not going to have this. No, it's not the First Amendment. Twitter's a private company. Blah. We don't know all that shit. Okay, no. So stop with that. They're not a public utility. They're not any. They're under no obligation. Just because none of us ever reads the 25 pages of mouse type when we say I accept. When we first become members of Twitter or Facebook, and they have a lot to account for, and they should have dumped him 5 years. We know that, but still, this is not a First Amendment issue, and it is not the most important thing going on in this country right now. And Donald fucking Trump still has the ability to speak to America anytime he wants.
That's correct.
He could say in 5 minutes, I want to be on all the networks. I have an important national security announcement, which might be a lie, but he could still come.
And why hasn't he done that? Like in the past 3 or 4 days, why hasn't he gone? I'm going to go into the room here and I'm going to talk. Because he's lazy. He's a lazy fuck, Brad. That's what's going on here. If he can't do this while he's taking a shit, he's not going to talk to America.
I like that explanation, but I think it's more this. And over the years, he said it many times. If it wasn't for Twitter, I wouldn't be president. It's the greatest thing ever.
Mhm.
It enables me to bypass the media completely and speak to my followers. And, factually, that's true. And now he cannot do that. There's no way for him to do that. Well, guess what? Up until a few years ago, no president had the ability to do that. And somehow they were able to get their mess. It's as if, well, we knew nothing about what a president thought or what their policies were going to be or who they didn't like up until Donald Trump went on Twitter. Bullshit. But he really isn't much of a communicator. He's the worst communicator ever. He can't answer a question. He will just lie. But Twitter, of course, is perfect. It's a one-way street into the bloodstream of America and to the minds of his followers. Nothing like a one-way street. Don't have to worry about anybody questioning you. And he doesn't have that anymore. And look at how weak he is. Look at how weak he is. I mean, our last communication from Trump was that piece of crap thing that he put up. Did that run on Facebook? That last video?
I think it was.
He put up the one where the first 25 seconds was clearly off the teleprompter. I completely disavow that's the wrong thing to do. And I love you all. You're all great. he couldn't stick with the script, of course, and he looked like a gun was to his head. It did look like a hostage video.
And apparently he only did that and was only talking about peaceful transition because a number of people were screaming at him that he was like Lindsey Graham told him, they've got the votes to remove you from office. You better go on and say right now that you're committed to a peaceful transition of power.
Which the answer, and he's not. And because he says that, suddenly now at this 11th hour plus the 11th minute plus the 11th second, he says that, and they think that that's going to mollify all of us. And we're going to believe him that he's right. I'm at the point now where I'm wondering whether the real reason why he isn't showing up at Joe Biden's inauguration is because he's the master planner of all this. He's at the very top of it, and he doesn't want to be there when the bombs go off. He doesn't want to die.
Well, it's awfully clear right now that inauguration needs to be moved inside to, I don't know, whatever, even a bunker. I don't give a fuck, but it does not need to happen outside. It needs to happen inside the White House or inside some secure building. The FBI, I don't care. I don't care where it happens, but I don't think that needs to take place outside. We can have cameras to show the world exactly what happened and him being sworn in, but I don't think that inauguration needs to take place outside. Do you agree?
Well, yes, I agree. But you know what the argument against that is, then to use the famous phrase that we used to use, don't hear it that much anymore, then the terrorists win.
I'm fine.
They can't change our way of life. We have to do things as normally as possible, or else the terrorists win. Now, but remember, the coronavirus has changed our way of life. And at this point, the coronavirus has won. Okay.
Oh, yes, it has. Yes.
There's not much we can do.
We've allowed it to win, by the way.
Right.
We've taped the kick me sign to our own backs over and over and over and over again and continue to do so even to this day.
Right.
That's exactly what happened.
I do agree with you, because the swearing in of Lyndon Johnson on Air Force, I don't know whether that was Air Force One or not, whatever it was.
It became Air Force. I think it became Air Force One the second he was sworn in.
Right.
And I believe that is the first time that a woman ever swore in the president of the United States. I believe that was the first time.
That again. Let's make sure that doesn't happen again. But
hey, we just had an insurrection, a bloody insurrection at the Capitol building. These are different times, and it needs to be in the White House. If you want to do it in the Capitol, I don't give a shit. It just needs to be indoors in a controlled environment where they're going to have a better lay of the land. One of the
by the way, that didn't make Lyndon Johnson any less a president, because
it didn't.
He wasn't sworn in
because they followed the Constitution. They did exactly what they were supposed to do when it comes to succession. So no, of course they did exactly. It's ridiculous. One of the funnier things, one of the more comic relief moments over the weekend was when some of these assholes who did all this stuff on Wednesday. I guess they hung around Washington and took in some of the sights. I don't know if they went to the zoo or whatever. They tried to fly home over the weekend and they were informed, you're on a no-fly list. I'm sorry, we're not going to be able to let you board
Wow.
and get on plane.
That's impressive that they
Yeah.
could gather their names up that quickly and put them on the famous no-fly list. I'm
funny.
impressed.
And I saw some videos of guys. There were one guy was crying in the airport. He was, oh my God, I can't believe they've ruined my life and they're calling me a terrorist. Yeah, that's because that's what you are. I'm sorry. When you occupy the Capitol building, when you occupy that sort of, and it hasn't been done since the British did it like 200 years ago, you're a fucking terrorist. I'm sorry. It's not hard. There are some decisions that are close in life. This one is not close.
Right. And I'm sure you know this because it's been widely discussed that we have all these laws that are on the books and have been changed in the wake of 9/11, which is coming up on 20 years. And almost none of those laws have the phrase domestic terrorism in them. There are no specific laws that say that you cannot break into the U.S. Capitol and break the windows and maraud around and ruin offices and wreck stuff and threaten to. So there are all kinds of other laws that are going to apply to these people when they get charged. But if it were foreigners or Muslim terrorists or pick your outside the country enemy who did exactly what happened on Wednesday, then a lot of terrorism related laws would apply to those people. So that seems to be a whole, but it goes back to the fact that really, I hate to say it, a lot of racism involved here in the way laws are fashioned in this country. And you're seeing it on full display right now. If you are a white Christian male, almost by definition, we can't label you any kind of a terrorist. Now, the Ku Klux Klan was certainly domestic terrorism, but I don't even think that designation was used in the prosecution of those people. It was all kinds of other things. We didn't go that far. Maybe it's time to change the laws, but that's for another day, another discussion in the future. But the consideration that these people, I mean, look, this isn't we have to wait to see what the evidence is. I mean, there's so much vivid video of what happened. And think of the stupidity of people. Bank robbers mostly know to cover their face when they go rob a bank.
Right.
It's just a thing. You don't want the camera in the bank that you know is there to identify you. You want to make it a little bit hard to be identified, right?
You do, yeah, generally.
Sure. And, you might wear a Halloween mask or a Scream mask. There's a lot of. If you go to Amazon and look for bank robber masks, there are a lot of them that you can buy.
Sure. Well, they got the presidents. You get a Nixon. You get a Reagan.
Right. There's the old pig face mask.
Oh yeah, tons of those things.
Right. But these people, just think of the mindset. Think of what must have gone into their heads over the last few years to culminate in people getting on airplanes, getting in their cars, driving to Washington under a spell, under the orders of the drivel that was circulating online and on Parler and on Twitter and elsewhere, saying this election was stolen from you. You must go to Washington and take it back. And then who's there? The Beatles, Donald Trump. He's there. He's there to egg you on. But like with everything else associated with Trump, when it came time to really, he wasn't there. He didn't march with them. He started out with a lie, but they were so.
But he was in the VIP tent with his stupid family, watching them, cheering them on.
Right. So your mind is so poisoned. I mean, this really is. And again, we're a couple years now past all the investigations and the big stories about Americans who got seduced and flew over to Syria to join ISIS. Remember that?
That's right. I do remember that.
Remember how the most dangerous thing for your child, you better find out what he's doing. He may be subject to being recruited by ISIS. Well, guess what? There really weren't that many of those, but there have been a lot being recruited and seduced by right-wing white supremacist Donald Trump end of the world bullshit, however you want to term it. And they took action against the United States of America like we haven't seen in 200 years. It's just, again, I want a ban. I want a ban on all reporters asking anyone a variation of this question. Did you ever think you would see blah? Stop it.
It's over. Yeah, that's obsolete.
Stop asking questions.
That's an obsolete. And the entire the entire purpose of this was to stop the voting on the Electoral College so that Donald Trump could remain president, and that the peaceful transition of power, that was exactly what they were trying to do. That's a terroristic activity by definition.
Yeah.
There can't be any debate. If we're going to debate this, then it's over anyway. That's what happened. That's what they did. Everybody can, I see these people, and the one guy from Idaho who they got hanging from inside the chamber. Oh, I'm so sorry. I got caught up. I was just trying to help people. I don't know what, I'm a good guy.
My favorite one is, that's the worst decision I've ever made in my life.
Really?
Who knew?
Really?
I hope it is, because I want to hear what decisions were worse than this one.
Yeah, because your ex-wife has a little different answer for that question, you dumb shit. He's just hanging from and it's like, I don't know, things just went, and it went. The article of impeachment has been introduced. It apparently will be voted on as soon as Wednesday, and the Democrats do have the votes to impeach Donald Trump for the second time. The fate of those impeachment papers and his removal from office in the United States Senate remains in some doubt. It does seem quite possible that Mitt Romney and Lisa Murkowski and Pat Toomey would vote to remove the president, perhaps. We don't know if Susan Collins is still very troubled by all this, Brad. Do you see this going anywhere in the United States Senate? And will you see people like Lindsey Graham seriously arguing that this man should not be removed from office?
Well, I don't think it matters from an actual standpoint over the short term, because there isn't going to be any vote in the Senate to acquit or convict before January 20th. We just know that's not going to happen. So the question isn't which one of these senators right now would vote to kick Trump out of office, because there aren't enough of them on the Republican side, because you need you need 2/3.
2/3 of whoever is seated at any given time.
And they would all be there, and so you'd need 50 plus 17 or 18 Republicans, and you can't get up to that high of a number right now.
I want people who will be running for office in 2024, like Marco Rubio and Tom Cotton and whoever else. I want them to be on the record telling me that no, this is not something that disqualifies you from holding office. That's what I want that to happen.
Right. So that brings up the concept of impeaching him now and sending the impeachment papers over to the Senate in 3 months, 4 months, now, and then voting on it then, because there is a precedent of impeaching someone after they've left office, not a president, but I think they've done it with judges or senators or things of that sort. So it certainly can be done.
Mm-hmm.
The actual effectiveness of it is really only what you said, and I think they actually have to vote a separate measure to say he can never run for public office again.
That's correct.
But I do like one aspect of it, because it just leaves it hanging over his head. Okay, he leaves it hanging over his head, and it will it'll just keep the Republican Party kind of in knots, don't you think?
I think so.
However, here's the blowback, because we've said it a million times: Republicans are more evil. They're more devious, and they do tend to figure out how to flip the script in ways that you can't understand. So I'm trying to think if the Congress said, and clearly this would be in cahoots with Joe Biden, who would probably sign off on it, say, look, we're going to hold off until April 1st, 3 full months in maybe May 1st, whatever the length of time is, to allow the Congress to work together with the great conciliator, Joe Biden, to do good things for the American people, pass a bigger stimulus package, get the coronavirus response rolling in a way that really will have most Americans vaccinated by late in the spring, early in the summer, and life can get back to somewhat all those things. And then we'll send those impeachment papers over to the Senate. That's not the worst idea in the world, but I certainly don't subscribe to all this Republican bullshit right now. Don't impeach. You're just going to inflame things more.
What about the unity, Brad? What about the healing?
Yeah, well, what about the fucking law and order? What about the goddamn fucking law and order that you've and by the way, complete off base, no sale on the, and remember, most Republican arguments are always based on a lie that they then try to throw at you, which you have to refute, which was a lie in the first place. And here it is. Here's one of the big lies right now. You didn't say anything when they were burning down our cities over the summer. You didn't say anything.
Yeah, that's what happened.
When those people didn't have masks on. All right, number one, most people did have masks on. Most of them were trying to socially distance. And it is true, 98% of them were peaceful. And so just stop it. And number two, every Democratic politician, everyone from AOC all the way down the line, denounced violence in our cities. So they make that argument and try to let people think that right now Democrats only care about this, trying to overthrow the goddamn government, but they didn't care when Freddie's barbershop got burned in Minneapolis.
Well, thank you. Can we also, draw a slight distinction between breaking a window at Bob's Cupcake Shop in Peoria and storming the fucking Capitol of the United States?
Right.
Can we make a slight demarcation between those two things?
Same thing.
And I'm not in favor of destroying property, and those people built those businesses, et cetera, et cetera. But there is a slight difference between those two situations. Come on.
Well, not in the wonderful world of whataboutism.
I'm sorry that trash cans got overturned on the streets of Greensboro. Oh, the horror. But the capital of the United States, and they were coming to lynch Mike Pence, who, by the way, if somebody lynches me, I'm probably going out and talking to some people about it over the past few days about how unhappy I am about that.
Right.
Meanwhile, I just can't see removing Donald Trump through the 25th Amendment. Right. Bygones, water under the bridge. I know they wanted to kill me in front of my family and the world, but it's just one of those things. We have to get on with the healing. What the world needs now is love, sweet love.
I forgot to look this up. I was thinking about it. Was it Bill Clinton who lobbed a few cruise missiles in the direction of I can't remember which, when George H.W. Bush was visiting the Middle East and they tried to assassinate him over there. Do you remember that story?
That was right when he came into office, and I think it was a plot to assassinate George W. Bush. And then when the thing was happening,
George H.W.
Bush, right? There was a plot, and he did that right when he came into office. And they said, "Well, that's no big." And then when the Monica thing was happening, he did something else, and then he lobbed some missiles in the Al Shifa pharmaceutical factory in the Sudan. That
wasn't having to do. I'm talking about taking action when a high or the highest government officials are bodily threatened. And,
yes. That was right. That was right when he came into office in 1993. Right. Was when he did that attack.
Right. And the way I see it, it wasn't just a high government official who was threatened last week. It was all of them. It was
hundreds.
What was that show with was it Designated Survivor?
Designated Survivor, yeah.
Right, where everybody in the cabinet gets killed and
it's blown up. Yeah, the Secretary of Education becomes the president. That's exactly what it was. Yeah,
right. So I guess we have to think that way now, but we're right in the middle of this, and again, the arrogance of not caring if your picture is taken, the arrogance of not realizing or realizing and not caring that there are dozens, hundreds of people taking video of you, in addition to the professional news organizations that are taking video of you, breaking in. And I don't know what that's all about, except to think that you are invulnerable because you think that Donald Trump has your back. He's going to pardon me. Nothing's going to happen to me. Let's take a run at it. Let's take a run at making sure that he stays in office. This is the only way we've figured out how to do it. Here we go. Let's try it, Bobby. I don't understand, or I guess I do understand, that these people, part of a cult, part of a mind-bent experiment in insanity, take us to a place that we've never been. Oh, I did a little research a couple of hours ago because one of our continuing themes, going back to the very beginning of this, is to make Hitler analogies about Trump. And there are a couple things that, number one, every president in our lifetime at some point has been compared to Hitler. And it's usually over a piece of legislation or Barack Obama has unleashed the security state, and it was not that friendly to a lot of members of the press, so he's Hitler and all that. Okay, so all that being said, with Trump, it was a little different because he kind of ran on the Hitlerian platform of America first. Okay, screw the world. I'm strong. They're weak. Follow me. Only I can fix it, and we'll get America back from everyone who isn't a white Christian male who's taking stuff from you. They're taking your jobs. They're taking your livelihood. They're taking your country away from you. And even worse, one of them even kneeled down at a football game, disrespecting the American flag.
How dare they?
Let's compare Colin Kaepernick disrespecting the flag in these people's eyes. And I guarantee you that every person who was in Washington last week storming the Capitol thought that what Colin Kaepernick did 4 years ago was the worst thing, the most disrespectful thing ever. And they did this. Okay.
Yeah.
So back to the Hitlerian examples and the analogies that we've been using. And several years ago, and of course I have the sole ability to do this, I said the repeal of Godwin's law is now complete. And Mike Godwin, who by the way is still with us, he was only 30 when he came up with this in 1990. And who was using the internet back then? Very few people. It was a brand
the Department of Defense and like a couple of geeks. Right. That was about it.
And so he's still a very successful guy. And he came up with this little rule that in any online discussion, if it goes on long enough, Hitler will be invoked, rendering the whole discussion just null and void and stupid.
Right, and you lose the argument. That's right. The other thing.
Now that kind of expanded into, and I don't know how this happened. You're not ever allowed to bring up Hitler at all because Hitler was so special that it will never be duplicated again, and no one will ever use his tactics or techniques.
Well, yeah, it's an insult to Jewish people and the millions of people that he murdered. Yeah, I mean that's the corollary.
But a lot of us saw his propaganda techniques, Trump's, being very, very similar to Hitler. And I think it all kind of culminated last week in what happened in Washington. And if this isn't Donald Trump's Reichstag fire, I don't know what is.
And I think it was.
I don't know what is.
I think it was Arnold Schwarzenegger who said it was like Kristallnacht. I believe that's what he was comparing it to.
Yeah,
very much.
Have you seen that video of Schwarzenegger?
I have.
Holy shit!
Yeah.
Holy shit! God, that guy should be the president, but he can't run because he was
No.
born in another country. But
That's right, because
he
he would.
really made a.
Well, you can understand somebody who was born in another country would not have the allegiances, and they might launch some sort of attack against the U.S. Capitol or something like that. You can't have somebody like that in the White House.
By the way, it's so funny. It's so opposite of that. Someone who was born
Of course.
in a place like Eastern Europe right after the war, which Schwarzenegger was, and saw what it was like to be in one of those authoritarian countries, and gets out and comes to America and achieves what he did. And it's interesting why he's able to express his love for America, and at the same time, people like the My Pillow guy,
oh Jesus,
who purport to love America so much that they want to keep Donald Trump as president forever. The election was stolen. We've got to find. See, I can't. I almost compare someone like Schwarzenegger to so many military people who go into politics, and they're the ones most unlikely to use military force. They understand what it does. Schwarzenegger grew up in a country with authoritarian tendencies and got out in time, so he knows of what he speaks. And this is the time. This is the time to stand up. I'll tell you what. I don't have the column in front of me, but for 35, 40 years, one of the conservative columnists that I've read, and I sometimes want to wring his neck, but I have an undying respect for the way he argues things and the kind of respect he shows for other people that others do not know. And you know who I'm talking about. His name is Cal Thomas.
Right? He's good. Yeah.
Cal has been around and he wrote a piece, he probably wrote it 2 days ago, but it ran in today's News and Record. And he absolutely, and he admits that he, liked some of Trump's policies, but then he goes on to say, I was wrong. I was 100% wrong to ever excuse what else was going on. And after last week, if you can't get off the Trump train, there is something seriously wrong with you. These are his words. I mean, he really cut the ties. Now, you and I, and most of you are saying, well, here's another fucking conservative finally figuring out that he shot a bunch of people on Fifth Avenue and that was too much for him. And that's true. But, on the other side of this, whenever that other side is reached, we're going to need some people who are reasonable, and we're going to try to bring along some other folks. I would just put him in that column of people like that. He's not the most prominent conservative anymore. You don't see him all that often on TV, but there have to be those. We're talking about this over the years also, but it kind of refocused itself last week when we thought of the idea of the lost cause. The lost cause after the Civil War being that the South was screwed. Mm-hmm. The things that they signed off for at Appomattox were way too punishing, and blacks got way too great of a deal. I mean, they got a great deal, right?
They got too big for their britches, really, is what happened, I think.
Right. And the Civil War really was never about slavery. It was just about states' rights, but to hold slaves.
Yeah, exactly.
And the lost cause continued, and the Confederate flag became a thing in the 20th century that we know and loathe, and on it goes. And by the way, that book Confederates in the Attic, I don't think has anything to do with the Confederacy or the Civil War, but it's a great title, so you get to use it when you want to talk about it. But obviously, it's been there. But we mentioned this last week. We do have now what appears to be Lost Cause 2. Which is the stab in the back Hitlerian version of Donald Trump having the election taken away from him. And you have little Himmlers and little Goebbels like Josh Hawley and Ted Cruz who won't give it up. They are lying. They are sticking with the program.
These are good.
I think that there's political light at the end of their tunnel by staying with this and staying with Trump all the way through.
This is it's good that you bring those two names up because I read this. I don't know if this is in a Politico article. I posted this on our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Brad and Britt Show. Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia, the Democrat, of course, one of the more conservative members of Congress of either party, or of the Senate rather, of either party, said in an interview he lobbied Hawley, Ted Cruz, Senator Langford from Oklahoma, and Senator Daines to change their minds on objecting to Biden's electoral votes when senators were holed up in a secure area following the attack. Now, I want you to think about that. There's nothing that really freshens the mind more than having to bear down as people are trying to kill you.
Right.
It tends to freshen the mind.
No, Britt, don't let that change your point of view. Don't let that change your politics. Don't let that shake your support for Donald Trump. Don't you dare.
So Senator Langford from Oklahoma and Senator Daines from Montana said, you know what? You got a point, Joe. We're out. We're not going to object to the votes anymore. We're done. We're going to cash in. We've seen the light. Meanwhile, Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley went, nah, fuck it. We're all in. Hours later, after the rioters were finally cleared from the Capitol, Hawley still objected to Pennsylvania, and Cruz voted with Hawley against certifying the election in the Keystone State. 5 other GOP senators then joined them, and Manchin's quote is, there's no way they cannot be complicit in this. That they think they can walk away and say, I just exercised my right as a senator, especially after we came back here and they saw what happened. I don't know how you can live with yourself right now knowing that people lost their lives. That is the quote from Joe Manchin.
Right. And by the way, that is why Manchin is a Democrat.
Exactly.
But here's the point, and this is going to be really vile when I say it, but I believe it. All right. How many people would have had to have died, and what ranking would they have to have had for these Republicans, these Trump suck-ups, sycophants, to finally say enough? And this is the end point of the questions we've been asking for 4 years. What's it going to take for you to resign from Trump's cabinet? What's it going to take for you to leave some agency? What's it going to be for you to stop being his press secretary or advisor on any? What's it going to take? How outrageous? Well, here we are. We've had an armed assault on the Capitol, and it's only through sheer luck that there weren't dozens, hundreds of members of Congress who were taken hostage, might have been killed. This would have been just so beyond.
How many is your question?
Wait. So since quote unquote only 5 people,
only 5
died, right?
That's more than Benghazi, by the way. That's more people than died at Benghazi. I just want to point that out. Including a law enforcement officer, by the way.
Right. Two. One committed suicide also.
There you go.
Which it took Trump 3 days to lower the flag on the White House to half staff after every other government agency had already done it. But that's because Donald Trump cares. He cares about you. He cares about law enforcement. The cops love me. Jesus Christ. But how big would the bomb have to have been? Did we need an Oklahoma City style shearing off of half of the Capitol, the dome falling in like Independence Day or one of those movies? Would that have moved these Republicans?
I asked
that seriously.
Oh, the answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. I don't know what the number is. I don't know if 20 does it. I don't know if 30 does it. I don't know if every senator lost their life and 100 representatives lost their lives. I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what it would have taken.
Let's be more focused in what if they had found Mike Pence and had hung him from the makeshift gallows they had built.
That's what blows my mind is that guy is still hanging with the program and he's not even going to consider the 25th Amendment. And Donald Trump had them coming for his ass. They were going to lynch him from the biggest tree. It's stunning that he's over there being silent and he's being complicit by his silence when he was the guy that they were coming to murder.
Right. By the way, the person who originally came up with the concept, the Stockholm Syndrome, just called and said, I give up.
It's
throwing
over.
in the towel.
It's
There's no such thing. These guys have come up with Trump syndrome, right?
Since I use the term lynch, and you've talked about it kind of, I think, eloquently here, if you see this as a pattern that continues from those Wilmington riots in the late 19th century, in which an entire town was murdered because, those black people.
Tulsa, right?
And Tulsa as well. If you see that as a continuation, this was a race riot. It's so funny when white people look on television and they see stuff happening, like when there's protests over Michael Brown or something. Oh, look, it's a race riot. There's a race riot. That was what you saw. It was a terrorism, and it was a race riot, and it was white people rioting because they can't handle this. They can't handle that their country. And remember the 2016. Well, it's economic uncertainty. These people are just so troubled by economic uncertainty, which I bought into for a nanosecond. I understand that if you're in Indiana and you've had a farm go 7 generations and you see an economy where some guy is typing stuff into a code and making dollars and the world has changed around you, things are a little weird. I get that. But again, a lot of those people, I think it's still a minority of people, but it's enough, are not like, hey, you know what I need to do is I need to run up to the Capitol and start shooting people and breaking windows and shit.
Well, by the way, I think you're underselling everything by just applying the word riot to this. A riot is kind of a spontaneous, like after Rodney King.
Yes.
The verdict in California, and suddenly the streets fill up and there's no plan to it. This was a planned insurrection against the United States of America. This was treasonous behavior. Look, in the late 60s, the Vietnam War protests were rough. I mean, they were visceral. They were nasty, but nobody ever thought to do this.
No.
For some reason, no liberal against the war ever thought that this was a good idea.
Yeah, you never saw Abby Hoffman storm into the Capitol and start breaking shit.
Right. And
that never happened.
Now, to be fair, they did surround the Pentagon and levitate it. Have you seen that?
I've seen it. But again, there's just no comparison between. And the other thing that the people who are Trump supporters can't handle is how many terrorist attacks have we seen on American soil since this man's been president, including the thing in Nashville, including that naval base in Florida that happened. I mean, it's happened time and time and time again. They can't handle the guy that was supposed to keep us safe.
Britt, they don't think of these as terrorist attacks. These are, they'll probably come up with some kind, they probably have already come up with some kind of euphemistic justification to call them American freedom fighters. That's what they're doing.
American freedom. Oh my God. Right. Oh, the language.
They're not terrorists. Your terrorist is my American freedom fighter. They're just fighting for the Constitution. They're fighting to remember the language game here. They're trying to turn everything around, and they are trying to uphold the precepts of the Constitution. And I sure hope that at least poor Rudy Giuliani gets sanctioned by the New York State Bar.
Yeah, they voted to. There's going to be a vote to remove him from the bar,
right? Yeah. Which, by the way, won't mean anything.
No,
but it feels good.
It does.
Right. The thought that, and I think this happened after we last, but that Trump, if he was going to defend himself during an impeachment hearing, is down to Alan Dershowitz and Giuliani as his defenders. You talk about lights out game.
Well, I don't know. That Len Wood guy, he may be end up in jail before, so he would not be available as well. Jesus, it's bad news. The president did announce over the weekend he will not be attending the inauguration of Joe Biden. Brad, what will the president be doing instead when Joe Biden is?
He's going to be plotting the military insurgency.
Oh,
we already covered that.
Oh, that's what his day is. It's not, you can tell he's, like I said, this is probably the longest streak he's gone between rounds of golf. I mean, this is how troubling this is to this man. He's not out on the golf course this weekend.
But I mean, the more important golf story with Trump is that the PGA Tour took away the famous PGA tournament, one of the big four, U.S. Open, British Open, Masters, and PGA, they took it away from that course at Bedminster, New Jersey, scheduled there for 2022. And remember, when they awarded that, and they awarded that after he was president, remember?
Exactly.
And back then, those were the days
Yes.
when corporate sucking up to Donald Trump seemed like it was a good business decision. And since golf is the whitest, most Republican, conservative sport of them all, it's not made up of angry, uppity Negroes like the NBA and the NFL.
Even though Tiger Woods did try to ruin the sport by introducing some of those guys to it.
Right. So now even the PGA sees that it might not be good business. And CBS and ESPN, which split the coverage on the PGA, plus all the attendant sponsors, the big name corporate sponsors, who, as you learned over the weekend, from FedEx to you name it, Marriott, they've all said we're not going to be donating anymore to Republican candidates. They've all figured out right now that no matter what you're hearing from Sean Hannity, it's probably not good business to be associated with a guy who inspired a takedown of the American government, Donald Trump. He is going to be the pariah of all pariahs, I believe. And I don't really think you have to worry about him running in 2024. He's going to be caught up in so many legal.
Well, without
before last week.
Well, without the Twitter account, honestly, the Twitter account takes at least 50% of the sting out of this guy for 2024. I'll be honest with you. To me, that kneecapped him for 2024. If he doesn't have the Twitter account, he's so impotent. I mean, if you think about it, that was a big part of the appeal. He can't get the message out there and fuck with people in real time anymore.
This morning, Kramer at about 9:15 says, "Wow, it was great to wake up today and not have to worry about what Trump is going to tweet about some company." That's from a purely financial.
Exactly.
And I think, again, this will never get investigated because there's so many things above it. I'm sticking with the idea that he was using that Twitter account
to send signals. Yeah.
To send signals to his friends that tomorrow I'm going to trash Amazon. I'm going to go after them hard, and they're going to be down 3 or 4%. So you can make a little money. That I believe that. I can't prove it.
I want to. This is like another unanswerable question. If Twitter had decided to ban him, I'll go 6 months ago, July. Would we have maybe more than 100,000 more Americans still alive who wouldn't have died from the COVID virus just because he was tweeting such bullshit and such lies and such disinformation and misinformation to people?
I don't think so. I think that's the one area where, again, the virus doesn't care what's on Twitter. It never did.
People follow that shit, and right. People and the whole open up America. We need to open up the businesses.
But wait. But it was more Trump being on TV at those afternoon press conferences and the bleach, and it's going to be gone in 15 days. And in the spring, it will disappear, poof, and we'll all be back in church for Easter. Oh, I don't think Twitter. I don't think that's would have been prevented. That the coronavirus rollout was going to be muffed no matter what. Twitter hasn't blown the distribution and the administering of the corona vaccine, but had Twitter banned him 6 months ago, it's very, very possible, maybe even likely, that what happened last Wednesday might not have happened. Wow. I do believe that. I do think that Twitter helped contribute to that, and they know that in the end it was going to be bad for their business, so they finally made the business decision. But it's obviously too little, too late. But then on the other hand, it's never too late to do the right thing, kind of stuff. Same with Facebook. I mean, they've contributed to the problem equally. But then on the other hand, they leave us up here. We're part of the problem.
Yeah, this is hate speech.
No, Donald Trump's biggest problem isn't that he doesn't have Twitter anymore. Donald Trump's biggest problem is Donald Trump.
Oh.
And the history books will show that. The history books will let us know. We don't have to wait for them. Who the collaborators have been, who has gone along with the program partially, all the way through. It will talk about who recognized this early and didn't want to be a part of it. They will be considered to be heroes. It's going to happen, and we'll know. Think about the people who were in Congress 20 years ago and were voting on the Iraq War. Okay, their votes back then have followed them. They've had to answer for it. And they've either had to have said, oh, yeah, I was completely right. That was a great war in Iraq. Where are those people? The answer is they don't exist. Nobody stands up for that vote anymore. And then there are other people who say, you know what? I was wrong. Okay. But it's almost taken a generation for some of those people to step forward and say that. So this is bigger than that, though.
It is.
This is a complete, this isn't just the revolution will be televised. It was on TV.
It was live streamed. It was tweeted. It was everything. Yeah.
Now, one more thing. That video, you've seen it a million times, where there's a giant pole they're using to poke through the Capitol windows, and it looks like there's like 4 or 5 cops standing there, just standing there, almost pointing, saying, yeah, that's the window. Go for that one. What are we going to do about that? I mean, do we have a completely corrupted police force right now? Nobody wants to say it.
Well, it's not completely, but there's enough elements in it to I mean, you have the officer Eugene Goodman, who led those crowds away from where the Senate entrance was. You've seen that video of him specifically trying to get them.
The guy who's backing up and tricking them into going the wrong way.
That was an amazing thing. And that guy, if anybody.
When you first saw that, I have to admit, when I first saw that, I thought, Jesus, we have a police collaborator showing them the way. And I kept my mouth shut and didn't say anything about it. I'm glad I did, because, of course, I would have been completely wrong.
No, he was. If you look at
he was brilliant.
The video is amazing, because when they chase him up the stairs, and when he's at the stairs, if you freeze the video, he glances to his left, which is where the entrance to the Senate is. It's kind of nondescript. It's between 2 chairs. He glances, and then he runs in the other direction specifically to get them away from there. And that's what's maddening, is that this guy was doing that. Meanwhile, Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley and the whole hee-haw gang are in there just like, hey, bring it on. We love this shit. Come on. Meanwhile, these fuckers are trying to do all they can to pour gas on the fire. It's stunning, that is what happened, but that's exactly what happened 5 days ago in America.
And we'll be talking about this day forever. I hope it isn't eclipsed in the next few days, in the next few weeks, by more of this. I mean, they're promising more. They're saying, as Donald Trump likes to say, the best is yet to come. Well, the worst is yet to come. According to them, and
stand down and stand by.
Yeah. It's not been a good week for America. It's not been a good week for America unless you come at it from the other point of view, which is, you know what, the center did hold. The Capitol was not taken over by the British. And quote unquote, only 5 people died. It could have been much worse. You want to think, and here's the dumbest thing that's going to be said during this entire podcast. You want to think that there are a lot of people around the country who are giving a second thought about heading to Washington for next week's inauguration. You want to think that what they saw wasn't an inspiration, but some kind of wake-up call that maybe this is not the way things are done. And they will get that as bad a 1.5-minute video as Donald Trump put out late last week. that within it, he did use the words, there will be a new administration next week. He has acknowledged that it's over. It is over. And since it is over, it is time for you to go back to your horribly miserable life, which is only the result of Black people and minorities getting a step ahead of you in every area of life.
Not the bullshit that I've done over the past 4 years. It's completely the Black folks' fault. That's what he wants to tell them.
We always close with what would you rather do in America? Wake up as a Black person or a white person? Is it really that great for them? Did I miss something?
Yeah, but now I don't even have my parlay. Fuck it. See you tomorrow.